Hello, everyone. We are back again for our weekly live talks, Ethics First live talks. I'm here with Sam Wigglesworth, and Shilpi unfortunately could not join us today, but we are going to run the show. And Sam is going to introduce to us the topic. It's a very, uh, relevant topic that is very close to my heart. So, Sam, go ahead.
Brilliant. Good evening, and lovely to see you again, Susanna. I think this session 10, it's January the 27th, and what we wanted to focus on this evening is really looking at minimum viable products versus what is called EVP, and EVP is referring to ethical viable products. So we're just going to discuss that this evening, and for startups in particular, what the importance is and where we should focus, our time. So. That's it. Yeah, looking forward to it.
What is an ethically viable product?
Yes, yeah, that's it. It's I think from my perspective, it's going away, it's moving away from the traditional MVP where you want to get a team together as quickly as possible, produce an idea and pull an MVP together, a minimum product together. You're now thinking about having the right team in place, having an ethics first mindset across that team, within the individuals themselves, and also looking for someone who can lead that team in ethics. That's what I would say. And you want to focus on responsible AI as well. That's the core focus, really, when you're building responsible applications. Yeah, making sure you consider everybody's decisions as well, and everyone's requirements. It's really important for the user. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And
Yeah.
the minimally viable product has now been sold to everyone, and it's a very lean, agile framework in which you develop a product as quickly as possible, a testable product that you can push out to the public, and then the public can actually work on it, give you the feedback on the failures and the, flaws in your design, and you can quickly iterate and, fix it and move on.
Mm.
There is a problem with that, it's there is now companies are now moving towards actually the minimally viable product is pushed so fast in the pipeline that they don't even take time to make sure that it is also ethically viable.
Mm.
So to me, ethically viable product is more important than a minimally viable product, because in the long term, once the pilot is done, once your the testing is done, it's not possible for you to go back in time and fix what was originally a critical flaw, a critical ethical flaw in your design.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
you have any questions for us so that we can answer for the audience?
Let's have a look. Let me just check if I've got any questions.
Uh,
Let's see. I'm on
I
LinkedIn.
don't think we have now. So,
Not at the moment. We don't at the moment, but please go ahead and ask us. Yeah, I think you're right, though. It's a really good point that you were making, that we do need to think about it really from an ethical perspective and an EVP rather than a minimal viable product. And it's becoming more common now to do that, to think about the company's values, how the models that we're training and building treat the end user, and how we as a business are looking to, how we are focusing on that as an element for development. So let's see. Okay. So I think that the
how do we
first,
go about it? I think
yeah,
that's the question, right?
yeah,
How do we go about it?
yeah. I mean, like you were saying, you want to have an agile approach. It's not that we're dismissing that. You should still go through the process of scoping your ideas, of strategizing and planning, and going through that development life cycle, and deploying, and testing, deploying, and then in iterating and improving. But fundamentally, from my perspective, and what we've learned so far, it's really about the data that you decide that you're going to train your algorithm on, your machine learning model on, understanding that, and making sure that it aligns with your end user, that it avoids as much as possible those biases that we talk about that creep into the data and into the training models, that's really important for me and fundamentally. And we can look at frameworks to help us with that, whether it's our Data Ethics for All pillars or others that are available internationally and in companies. But the fundamental thing is for me is that that we consider all users and all end users when it comes to the data itself
Mm-hmm.
and the model. Yeah. What about you? What do you think, Susanna? What's your view?
My view is the same,
Mm,
but there is like a right now there is a question within the field of ethics,
yeah.
not in the field of ethics, within the AI industry itself.
Yeah.
Ethics is costly business. It's by design, trying to build ethics into the product,
Yeah.
waiting for inclusiveness, making sure everything is done, making sure that you are hiring the right person, the right the people are in the room, and also that you are able to do market research for the target audience, making sure they are also included in the process. All of this costs money. So what do you say to that, Sina?
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I think you have to look for align your model, your product, your your EVP with a funding model as well that aligns with your values. And I think it's looking for those individuals that are interested in helping invest and grow that, whether that's within the company itself or looking for for funds. Yeah, so certainly doing your research in that area. Whether it's working in an application in EdTech or in an ethics framework, for example, you've got to look for those funding avenues, and they've got to align as well with your values, haven't they, and your mission. And I've seen before that we've seen in the articles that we've been reading, and particularly from the one from TechCrunch that Shilpi shared earlier, that you can go for several years. A company can be developing a product and invest millions of dollars into it, and into both the marketing and promotion of it when it's finished and the development. And if you don't get it right that first time, like you said, and you don't build it into the design from the basis, then that's it. It just takes one mistake. Absolutely. And we've seen it before, and we don't want that. So aligning the right funding avenues and making sure that is your priority, and that comes from the team, comes from the design. Yeah. So I definitely say that. Yeah. What do you think? What's your view?
I do. I
Yeah.
don't believe in that argument that when people say it's so expensive to
Yeah.
ethics into the whole design of your product. No, it is probably the most priority expense for your company at that stage.
Okay.
You should spend as much money on that as possible, and maybe if it takes time, you should take that time and build it ethically. I know,
Yeah.
hire the right person, wait for the right team to form, and make sure that your team is inclusive. Make sure
Mm,
your all the discussions about the people who for whom you're building the product, make sure that the people are also in the room with you, so that
it's
you're
true.
getting them. So it is an expensive avenue,
Yeah.
but I think that is the only way to avoid the pitfalls that we are seeing now.
Mm,
Also, going down the road, after you, like you said, after you make a mistake and after you see that it is no longer ethical, and then people are
yeah.
shouting at you and suing you and all of that, that is a costly endeavor, right?
Mm,
You
yeah.
might as well put the money before into the product itself. So that's what I think.
Yeah, no, when it's ready, and taking time is important. I agree. I think from the very, very beginning, if you have a team that understands data, that understands the importance of privacy,
Hmm.
that understands how to protect security and users' rights,
Hmm.
and has that perspective, and really importantly for me, and I've been looking at a couple of TED Talks as well about this recently, and a couple of articles that, and actually last we've had a talk on this, and we did have a talk last year during our summit. We mentioned the importance of inclusiveness and understanding language, but it's also about understanding culture. And if an organization can do that and can make it a global application, thinking about the global south, we've talked about the global south before quite a bit, that sometimes we have a perspective and we need that to be global. We need to look at that from many different lenses, I think. Yeah. from a language perspective and also from a cultural perspective. That
Mm.
takes time, I think, as well. So, and learning. Yeah. Yeah. Do we have any
Yeah.
questions? Let me just check if we've got any questions. Bear with me. We haven't yet had any questions. Just have the comments feed open. Let me just have a quick look. Not this evening. We've had a couple of likes so far, and we'll just wait for more questions.
Yeah. If you have
Okay.
any questions,
Yeah.
anything related to this topic of ethically viable product, building with ethics by design into the product lifecycle. If you have any questions for us, ping us, put it in the chat and we will answer it live for you here.
I mean, I have a question then, and I think one of the questions we wanted to ask was, well, how do you build a team with ethics inside? So, what is your view? How would you build a team up with ethics
So
first or inside?
ethics, to build a team, I do think that you have to, with ethics first, first of all, ethics, you can say, ethics has many different, frameworks out there. But the one that is most crucial to any product viability is to have inclusiveness built into it. And you cannot have inclusiveness built into it when you don't have representation of everyone at the table there. Everyone at every stage of the process who is going to be impacted, the people who are going to be impacted, who the people who are going to use your product, as well as the people who are developing a product. Both of them should be from that background, from the same background, should have also differences in different disciplines should come together. We don't have that anymore. Different races and ethnicities and different people who speak different languages. Even languages have different meanings in the same word has a different meaning or a different connotation in another language. So you don't know all of that unless you build a team that is more inclusive. So to me, inclusiveness is the first pillar of building an ethically viable product. And if you cannot build an inclusive team as of now, wait. As
Mm.
all silver says, wait until the person is there and don't rush into it. And that waiting is not considered viable in the industry. But to build an ethically viable product, you must wait. And that is what I think. And it should have, I think the next step is it should have inclusive use cases that benefit anyone, everyone, everywhere. It cannot be just your product. If let's say you are selling something like a device, that is going to benefit only a certain group of people, you need to think how that device will be used against another group of people. So inclusive these use cases are another area that I think we should have in the design itself. Any other things that you think should be at the design stage?
Yeah, certainly. I think we, as developers and designers, we need to come from a perspective of agile. That we need to be agile in the way we approach products and developments. But before we get to that stage, like you said, we have to take our time. We have to understand the importance of knowing and being transparent with the technology that we're building, understand how the algorithm how the processes of the algorithm operate, and the data that's being captured. I keep saying that. I think that's really important from my perspective, from my background, and from the work I've been doing. I think that's really key. Understanding the phases of development, but getting those people involved from an early stage, like you said, aligning them with the values of the company, treating people that are part of that journey with fairness and respect and rights to privacy, as you go along, like you said, along together. And it's got to be, and I think also you've got to think about, like we said, safety and security, and that it operates efficiently for everybody. Yeah, and that we're accountable to any outcomes. Like you said, we often find that in the past we've gone ahead of ourselves. We've developed products that are for users very, very functional, well designed, but we haven't often thought of the consequences. So we need to think about that first before building. And just know the pitfalls first and learn from that.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you have to
definitely.
think about all the use cases. I mean, I
Yeah.
think I know they say, that we didn't have imagination to think, that facial recognition would be used this way.
Mm, mm.
No, not really. You had imagination to build the facial recognition tech, but you can't say you did not have the imagination to think of an evil use cases. So
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have to have imagination to think evil as well as so that we can avoid
Mm.
being evil. You have to think, oh, how will this be used against uh,
Against that
um,
individual.
against an individual, against a
Mm.
group or another country?
Yes.
What about countries that don't believe in democracy? How will they use it? We didn't think of all of those things. We launched facial recognition technology out there, and it is now being used in countries that don't believe in democracy against its
Mhm.
own people. So
Yeah.
those are the use cases that you have to think, and all of this
Mm.
thinking takes time, and that is
Yes.
what it means to build an ethically viable product. Than a minimally viable product. A minimally viable product is easy to build and very fast, but
Mm.
an ethically viable product takes longer time
It's an
to.
investment. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think what you mentioned earlier about having use cases for individuals or even countries that look at risks and how it might be used against that particular group or individual is really important. Definitely, especially when it comes to the newer, more advanced technologies that we've seen in voice and facial recognition. I think both of those areas, those avenues, are worth exploring.
Mhm.
I also found as well from the research that we often build products that are not accessible, so we need to think about accessibility. And we've talked about that a little bit before, but I think that's really important. Yeah, for those that have multiple special educational needs, for example, that maybe need to not only read but also have good audio and good visuals of websites or applications, yeah, or apps that we've developed.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, definitely. Great. I think we've got some questions. Let's have a quick look. Going to the feed. Okay. I think it's not as busy at the moment on the comments feed, but I think we've covered most bases this evening.
mhm,
Yeah, I know that we had three, couple of key questions about what we should be focusing on,
mhm.
what's most important,
Yes.
and how do you build it. And I know that in the articles that we've been looking at together as a team, that we did mention that there's an important requirement for an ethics first leader to lead that team. And I think sometimes you need both that and the right group as well, like you said.
I know that article mentioned that you should have an ethics chief or an ethics
Yeah, 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 yeah,
officer, but I tend to disagree with that. It's not just one person who's being the ethical lead in the team.
yeah.
It doesn't work like that. It has to be everybody. Ethics has to be by if you are going to build something ethics by design, it
Mm,
has to be everybody has in the room has to be a voice for ethics. Has to be the person that advocate for ethics in that room. It cannot be a single person
yeah.
leading that. And then we have that is a model that has already failed. We saw with Google and all of them. It's not like you have a chief AI ethics officer and chief AI ethics researcher, and that person,
Mm,
is doesn't have the ability to doesn't have the community voice. Everybody in the company at every stage and every process should be talking about ethics.
mm,
You know, in data ethics for all, for example, like all of us are advocates for ethics, so it's not possible for the organization to do anything unethically because everyone in the room will speak up for ethics.
mm.
So that is how an ethics by design should be built. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's key, and we should be thinking about it from, like we said, from within as well, and understanding that it's actually part of your fabric as an organization, and it's part of it's interwoven into design. It's not separate. You shouldn't just have that one individual or that one small group. You need it to be across different teams and multiple teams. Yeah, and it's part of a culture, I think, Susanna, from my perspective. Yeah,
Yes.
we need to, like, we've got our main objectives as an organization, and one of our missions is that we build it into the fabric of who we are as an organization. I think that's really important. Yes, we learn, and we improve, but we do want to start from that base, from the bottom up in that respect. Yeah, definitely. Okay. And yeah, I think we've covered all questions for this evening, and we've had, yeah, I've really enjoyed the discussion, certainly, and we've got lots more to talk about.
There's lots more to talk
Yeah,
about,
yeah,
and definitely. And here, Samantha is also a founder of an organization. So she is also a founder of a startup, and so she knows what it means to build ethics by design into the product, into her programs, into her organization. So and I am also a founder, and
and you too.
all of us, this is not something we just talk about. This is something we are trying to implement in
Mhm.
our own, products and in our own companies. So it's a long journey. It's an expensive journey.
Yeah,
It takes time to do this the right way, and we have to break this mold of minimally viable product. But just take only the agile framework that is included in that philosophy, but take it and use it for an ethically viable product, ethically viable, life cycle of a product.
yeah,
We have to really dive deep into that, build explainability into it, build inclusiveness into it, make sure everything is transparent, make sure everybody is included, every use case is also included. So those are all the things that we are all trying to practice. And you can contact any of us for any more information on how to implement this in your companies. And here, Sam is an expert in NLP, so she could be able to help you how to build an ethically viable product as an NLP expert. So all of those, this is an organization that is here. That Data Ethics for All is an organization that is founded by Shilpi Agarwal, who believed in the ethics first mindset, and everybody here is an ethics first mindset leader. So we are all here to support you in your journey to build ethically viable products. So come and ask us any questions. Come join our community, and there is a joining link on top of Samantha's head. If you can see
yes.
that, you can you can
Yeah, it is
that
there,
and
isn't it? It's
join.
just on that side. It's the QR code. Yeah, just
Yes,
scan that in, definitely.
thank
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, and thank you, Susanna, who's our Chief Ethics First Officer. She's our ethicist, absolutely. So thank you.
Thank thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us. It was a pleasure, talking to all of you this evening. And we hope to come to you again for next week for
Yeah,
another lively ethics first discussion. Thank you.
thanks. Bye bye.